Yeah, guys. So, did you guys had the chance to revise all the concepts till now? I mean, how is it going? Like, I just would take 5 minutes, not much before starting this session. Just wanted to know your picture as to how is your preparations part going and how do you feel and what are the difficulties you guys are facing?
Yeah, so my personal experiences, I have been trying to do this average allegations का chapter. So
Okay.
उसमें I felt, I mean, I have solved 11 questions. The rest 9 questions I was not able to understand the question entirely. Maybe the other 11 were a bit straightforward. That is one thing.
Okay.
And one more thing, Kesari, I wanted to know is, so when do we confirm if the data is consistent or inconsistent? I mean, there was a particular question in that, but I felt that is data inconsistent, but I don't know the approach which I went is correct or wrong.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
these are
you
the
just have a particular issue, not a general issue as such that is
yes,
troubling you. Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Others, guys?
Casey, I also tried the same practice worksheet
Okay.
and I'm able to solve 7 to 8 out of 20 in one go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. See, it might happen generally because there are some tough sums as well in the practice sheet. As we have discussed in the class as well, like if we have 8 to 10 problems, 2, 3 problems are very tough, 2, 3 are very easy, and 2, 3 are on a medium level. So I have designed the practice sheet on some similar lines. So you might be faced with something. So it might generally happen that in one go, close to one third or half of the problems might get solved by you. So there's no need to worry in that regards. You can go through the recordings once again. What you might feel is you are stuck in the particular concept because more or less we are covering almost every concept. Like every chapter has close to 5, 7 types of how to approach a sum, and we are almost there. Like there would be hardly a sum which cannot be solved using the approaches discussed in the class. So what you do if you guys get stuck, go see the recordings once again, see the part where you are getting stuck, revisit it, and then try to attack the problem. That might help.
Sure.
Okay. Others? Okay. I guess then nobody has any major issues. Yes, Pandarai, you want to say something?
Yeah, okay. I was just trying to revise the both class work and the homework sums that were
Okay.
given from the
Yeah.
beginning. So
Mhm.
as of now, no issues. But the homework sums, yeah, I need to still go. I mean, complete there are a few sums to be done yet.
Okay. Yeah. Please ensure, guys, that you be regular with the problem solving part. Like I was mentioning in the previous lecture as well, if it gets piled up, it becomes difficult to cope up. So yeah. So guys, okay, if anybody others who has to share something, then we'll move forward with this session.
Hi, Casey, this is Aditya.
Yeah, Aditya.
Yeah. So, sorry I couldn't attend the lectures from past 2 or 3 days. I had some personal things to be sorted out. But then I did write the CAT test, and in math I could solve 12 problems in 1 hour, whereas English was 14, and again DILR was only 10. So the thing that I observed in my problem solving patterns and the way I solve is it no matter how many techniques I try to learn in class and while practice I try to do it, but then eventually when there's time on the head, I try to come onto the conventional techniques which I'm comfortable with. So there I get lost somewhere in the between.
It will happen initially. It will happen. See, you had become comfortable with your conventional techniques. So, moving on to something that is completely new won't happen in a matter of just 10 days. I mean, it's close to barely 10 days. We have 10, 15 days. We have just started our journey. So it does take time, but see, as I said, revision is the key. If you are understanding the concept, gradually it will come into your practice as well. See, take it in a similar analogy, which I would try to say is whenever you come up with a new word, any new word you read in a dictionary or somewhere else, you just cannot start using that word in your vocabulary, in your speaking and writing. It takes some time first to get used to the word, let that word settle in into your subconscious mind, because when you speak it subconsciously. You don't have to put much more efforts as to conscious, unless and until you're speaking to a very important person. Yeah, that's a different thing, like in an interview or something else. But if you're speaking with friends, you subconscious effort is required, and for that word to pop into your subconscious effort, it will require some time and effort. It won't come just the next day, as in I learned a word today, I will use it tomorrow while speaking with my friends. So that generally does not happen. Similar is the way with quant as well. If you learn something new, it won't drastically pop into your minds just the next day itself. It would take some time, but yeah, revising it and practicing it again and again will surely help.
Thank you, Casey, for the advice.
Yeah. So just don't give up on the methods, as in I'm not able to, like you said, come up with them during the exams. Just don't give it them. Have some patience and some time. It will surely reap benefits.
Like for the easier questions, I was able to really, save a lot of time using the techniques. But some questions which seemed easy, but when I started solving them, I just got lost. I wasn't able to apply the method which I learned. So that is somewhere I need to, correct myself and work more on.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright then. I guess everybody is done with. Then we'll start with the session. And this session is very important, guys, because this will be a series of 3 sessions, and will cover is numbers. A very important session, because I would say in last 5 years, in 2-3 years, the number has gone as high as close to 20% or so. And we are speaking 20% of quant, that is 6-7 questions, and that's a good chunk of questions just from a single, I would say, single chapter. Numbers is vast, I wouldn't say so, but the thing you guys have to notice, it's not just its contribution in the quant, even its contribution in DILR is massive. Sometimes you can get a direct puzzle of 16 marks or 12 marks in the DILR section itself. So that contributes to 3-4 questions itself. So I can clearly see why this is such an important. So do not miss out on these lectures, guys. And majorly we'll be focusing today on theory part, because there's a lot of theory to cover in this ground and a lot of explanation too. So today we'll try to just stick with theory and jump some basic problems. We won't feature into the tough problems territory right now. But yeah, that would be it. That would be the agenda, what we'll try to cover today. So before moving forward, guys, what do you think by just mentioning numbers? What comes into your mind? I would just like to have your opinions first. Anybody?
Digits from 0 to 9.
Okay, Aditya is telling 0 to 9.
Integers.
Integers. Okay. Others?
Rational numbers, irrational numbers.
Rational, irrational. Okay. Anything else?
Terminating, non-terminating.
Okay.
Even and odd.
Even and odd. What else?
Prime
What else, guys? Yeah, go ahead.
numbers.
Prime numbers. Okay. So once you have said prime, naturally there will be composite as well.
Opposite numbers.
Yeah.
Positive, negative.
Positive, negative. Very good. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Real and imaginary.
Real, imaginary. Okay. Good. Uh, Anything else, guys? Or is the database exhausted? Okay. All right, sure. Broadly, what you have tried to say is all the parts have been covered. Yeah, integers, rational, irrational, terminating, not terminating, even, odd, prime, composite, positive, negative, real, imaginary, everything. And I would say these are your basic variables. And by playing with these variables itself, uh, we will come up with some various concepts and tackling them. So yeah, we'll see them. Now, just discussing these parts itself, as mostly all of them have been covered. What are integers, guys?
Positive, negative, and 0 together, they form integers.
Okay, so is 6.9 a positive number?
No points.
No points, as in?
No decimals.
Okay, no decimals. So 7.0 is an integer.
It's a float.
Now you're going into computer territory.
The numbers which are not in fractional form.
Okay, the numbers which are not in fractional format. Okay, so you mean to say this is not an integer? Is that what you're telling, Trilok?
Yeah,
So 7 by 1 is not an integer.
we can write it as 7.
Then according to you, the number of IMs present in a country is not an integer. Yeah, guys.
They are not fractions.
Okay, and how would you define a fraction?
When numerator is not divisible by the denominator.
Okay, now I'm getting some clarity. Yes. So when numerator is not completely divisible by denominator, it's a fraction. Then what is a non-fraction?
When the divisibility is complete and when numerator is completely divisible by denominator, and we can represent it with a complete number without any fractional part.
Perfect. Now, can you link this part to integers, please? You're almost there.
Okay, so integers are the numbers which can be represented without fractional parts.
Okay. Okay. See, guys, just one thing, and this will cover 2-3 concepts as well. We'll see various parts how you can determine, like you were telling the fraction. So if we first target the fraction part, yes, fraction is when p and q are integers. See, all of these things, everything is linked to each other in some or the other way. So once I tell you to describe this will somewhere come in between. Once I tell you to describe this will come somewhere in the between. So can I say the general way to present any number would be p by q, where q is not equal to 0, and p and q can be real numbers. They need not be integers, they can be real numbers. Can I say that? I will be coming to what are real numbers. Is this part clear, guys? Any doubts or any questions you wish to throw at this? Go ahead, you are free to do so. Q cannot be 0. Why Q cannot be 0? Why is division by 0 not allowed, guys?
It will make the values infinity.
Okay, and what is infinity?
Undefined.
Infinity is undefined. Okay. Anybody else?
The
What?
highest value possible.
Highest value possible. So if I multiply by 0, sorry, divide by 0, I'll get the highest value possible. Is that so?
Yes.
Okay. So if infinity is the highest value possible, what if I add 1 to it?
It'll again be infinity.
So can I cancel infinity from both the sides?
Oh no.
Why not? You said both are infinity. Infinity is equal to infinity. This is correct?
Cannot decide.
Sorry, I did not hear you.
Cannot decide.
Cannot decide. Okay. Now that's the interesting fourth option popular among cat. None of this. Yeah, guys, coming back to my question, infinity plus 1 is equal to infinity. Can I cancel infinity from both the sides? Others? See, guys, the more like I iterate it again, the more you interact, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, the more your doubts will get clear and better you will understand and even love this chapter. Trust me, it's a very easy chapter once you understand it. If your concepts are a little bit out of the place or you don't understand it, this will give you a tough time. So go ahead and speak up whatever you wish. It's not that I am expecting correct answers. When I was at your stage, even I used to ask some silly questions, and in long run, it did help me. So there's nothing known as silly questions. If you ask a question that is silly, you might look silly for 2 minutes. If you don't ask a question, you will become silly for the entire lecture. So it's all up to you guys.
What I think is since if for example, if q was equal to 1 and we divide p with q, so we get an exact value of p. But
Yes.
then 0 is something which is lesser than 1. And as we keep reducing the value from 1 to 0, as we keep going in points, the value of p keeps on increasing. So
Okay.
since we do not have a perfect, concept for representing what the output will be, so we are taking the help of infinity to just say that it's going to be the maximum if it's divided by 0. And also infinity is relative. For example, if I consider some lakhs and crores with compared to 0.1, it might be an infinite distance for a small ant to reach that many kilometers. So anything beyond that also will be infinite. So it's just a relative concept.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You pretty much covered what is there in infinity. Yeah, you're totally correct. See, guys, let's take 100. If I divide 100 by 1, I will get 100. If I reduce this 1 to half, this will become 200. If I reduce this 0.4 to 0.1, I will then get 1000. Gradually, if I start reducing this number will go on increasing and increasing, and at a stage it will reach, as in it will start reaching exponentially. Even a small change in denominator will give a drastic change in the numerator. So what we ideally know as infinity is not a number, and that's why mathematical operations like addition and subtraction don't work on infinity. Infinity is a concept that we use in mathematics, that is a never ending number. It does not end. That's why if somebody asks you infinity plus 1 is infinity, mathematical operations don't work on infinity. uh, even if you go into calculus, there's a concept called limits. You don't need to know about it. I'm just giving you that something like this exists. You will have limits where infinity by infinity, or 1 raised to infinity, or infinity minus infinity, or something on similar lines comes, and we have to simplify this to something else, and we cannot leave it to that regard. So yes, handling infinity in that territory is dangerous, and hence will not move in that regards anywhere, because we won't have to handle it. So whatever just now Aditya mentioned is quite correct. Infinity is a concept. We gradually move towards it. We do not actually touch it. Infinity is a never ending number. So yes, perfect. Now coming back to the original part. P by Q. Now take various forms of P by Q. whenever p is an integer. Now, what is an integer? As we had discussed, p by q, where p is completely divisible by q and does not leave any remainder, we get the net output as integer. Now let us use this concept to define, again go back to p by q and define what is a rational number. So let p be any integer and let q is equal to 1. Then what we'll be getting is a rational number. If this is a rational number, guys, what would be irrational number? I mean, here we have 1. It's not necessary to just have 1. We can also have 2, 3 or any number. But if this is the definition of a rational number, what would be the definition of an irrational number?
Where we get a recurring decimal.
Okay. Recurring decimal. All right. Anybody else?
Now that's like pi 22 by 7 cannot be a fixed integer value like that.
Okay. All right. One thing, Aswik, just wanted to ask you. The basic definition of a rational number is anything that can be represented in the form of p by q, where q is not equal to 0. And p and q are integers. That's the definition of a rational number. Then in structuring and going on similar lines, how would you define an irrational number? Or anybody else, if you want to give it a try. I will repeat it once again. P by q is a rational number when q is not equal to 0, p and q are integers. Then this is called a rational number. Now on similar lines, if this is a rational number and irrational number is the opposite of this part, how will you define an irrational number? Using the same analogy.
In rational number, there is a chance of q completely dividing p and giving us an output. But whereas in an irrational number, it does not divide p completely, and it might give a decimal part, as a residue.
Okay, then if I say 113 divided by 100, will this be an irrational number? I'm going by your definition, what you stated right now. 113 by 100, it does not completely divide it. So do you mean to say 113 divided by 100 is an irrational number?
No, because we get a definitive output in it. We get it in terms of decimals, but it's not recurring or going on.
Okay, so for irrational number, it needs to be recurring. Is that what you were saying?
Forgot all these basics.
See, I'm not taunting you guys.
Yeah.
I know you guys have learned it. I just want to bring it from you guys. I can just state the definitions here on the screen. You guys can say it, and I can be done with it, and I will quickly start with the concepts part and the sums part. But I'm specifically spending some time here so that you guys get comfortable with this. And I would appreciate if everybody attempts to have a go at the definitions and understanding part. You can be wrong, it doesn't matter. Anybody else?
We can say the recurring is not defined. Like say sometimes the recurring can be like say 0.333. It could the same number could repeat. Else undefined numbers like say 0.345. That could be the pattern of recurring.
Okay. All right. Guys, if rational number was defined in this way, can I say an irrational number is a number which cannot be defined in the form of P by Q?
No.
Why not?
Yes, I mean a number which cannot be represented by P by Q is an irrational number.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck at what examples can I give for this?
That was my next question. So you're already thinking ahead. Yeah, Trilok, you said it cannot be. Why it cannot be? And if it can, like Ashwik was telling, give me examples. We need to be crystal clear with numbers today.
What I
Others?
think is something like pi, 22 by 7 or square root 2.
Okay.
These
But
we want to give a
but
proper number.
pi can be represented in the form of P by Q, right? 22 by 7. So
Yeah.
it's defying the definition of what Trilok said.
Okay. So Aditya, do you agree with Trilok or do you agree with Ashwik?
I disagree with Trilok. I didn't hear what Aswik was saying. We can represent irrational numbers in the form of P by Q, or else pi would cease to exist as 22 by 7.
Okay. All right. Guys, just a small fun fact for you guys. 22 by 7. Okay, I will give you one more number. Anybody knows this number? This? Anybody aware of it?
No.
Okay. There's one illusion which you guys were living under, and I will try to lift that up today. That illusion is pi is actually quite a large number. Pi is actually irrational, and what 22 by 7 does is it only gives the value of pi to close to 3 to 4 decimals accurately. That's it. After that, the value of pi and 22 by 7 becomes different. Like, and I would just give you one simple thing. 22 by 7 minus pi is not equal to 0. We assume it to be 0. If you want examples, you can do two things. You can search it on the internet, and just to give you one thing, there's a very popular exam in India. This question had come in 2010 as well. So it's not that it's just the you guys people test it on. This concept has been tested on various exams in India. The popular being the ITJ exam of 2010 paper. You can go and see there. There was a question on calculus. The thing is 22 by 7 is actually not equal to pi. It is somewhat greater than pi, or somewhat I think greater than pi. But that's not the point. The point is it is not equal to 0. 22 by 7 minus pi, it is not equal to 0. It gives an approximate answer of close to 4 decimals after the decimal point, 4 decimal places. What this number does is it goes beyond 4 decimal points. Like if you calculate it using this number, this is just for general knowledge, guys. This generally we won't be asked because CAT is not an exam, but it might help you. So just reiterating to what Ashwik was telling, if it cannot be represented in P by Q format, it is an irrational number, and 22 by 7 is guys just an approximation, because to ease your calculations, pi is an irrational number and 22 by 7 is an approximation we use for pi. So never get confused between these two concepts, guys. Hopefully I'm clear and did not give you way too much to gobble down. Is this part clear, guys? What is a rational, what is an irrational number? Everybody, please type in a yes in the chat box if it is clear, guys. Okay. All right. Great. Now, hopefully you guys will never be confused with the rational and irrational part. So we are done with integers. We are done with rational and irrational part. This is clear. This is clear. Terminating and non-terminating is left. Let's see the easiest one, odd even. So just for general knowledge, what is an even and what is an odd number? And somebody else, I mean, not the regular ones who were speaking for the last 2-3 minutes, apart from me.
A number which is divisible by 2 is even.
Okay. Then what is 0?
0 is neither even nor odd.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. And what is prime and composite number?
Prime number is a number which has the 1 and is number itself or its divisors.
Okay. Just one thing, Prerit. Could you repeat your definition of even and odd numbers?
An even number is a number which is divisible by 2.
Okay. So 8 by 2, the quotient is 4 and the remainder is 0. So do you mean to say that when the remainder is 0, the number is even?
Yes.
Okay. So
No. If then some other number would be there, then only in the case when the denominator is 2.
yeah. So if I take this example, what I'm stating, is it correct or wrong?
You cannot divide 0 by any other number.
Why cannot we divide 0 by any number? There's a rule in maths, you cannot divide by 0. You can.
Okay, sorry. No, this won't make sense then.
Others? Anybody who wishes to participate in this discussion? Yeah, people? Anything you wish to comment?
Even numbers can be said to be multiples of 2.
Okay. So what I have written on screen, 8 by 2, quotient is 4, remainder is 0. Does that mean 8 is divisible by 2?
Yes.
Okay. Now 0 by 2, will the remainder be 0?
Yeah.
Then Prerit is saying 0 is not an even number or not an odd number. What's your thoughts? What do you think?
Spandana said that it should be a multiple of 2. So how can we get a 0 as multiple of 2? So anything which is a multiple of 2.
If anything is a multiple of 2, will it leave a remainder of 0?
No. Yes, it will.
Yeah. So if I divide 0 by 2, will it also give me remainder 0?
Yes.
So are both the criteria meeting? That the remainder should be 0?
Means 0 is an even number.
Sorry?
Then 0 is an even number then.
Okay. So then 0 is an even number.
The criteria is remainder is coming to 0 in both the cases.
Yes.
Independently of the quotient.
Yes.
So 0 is an even number.
Exactly. 0 is an even number. 0 is not an neither even nor odd. Don't confuse with that. That's why I took this example, so that this does not confuse you anything further. 0 is an even number, guys. And that's why I've taken this example, because the matching criteria is the remainder is 0. That's why 0 is even. Anybody, any doubt?
No.
Okay. Coming to the prime and composite, Prerit, we were discussing something. Yeah, go ahead. What is prime and what is composite?
A prime number is a number which has a divisor of 1 and the number itself.
Okay.
And I am not sure of composite number. All the numbers except prime numbers are composite number.
Okay. Are there any exceptions?
1. 1 is a unique number.
Yeah, 1 is a unique number. 1 is prime or composite?
1 is prime.
1 is prime.
So 4 is the first composite number.
Sorry?
I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay to be confused. Like I said, I'm trying to make you guys confused to make your doubts clear. There's nothing wrong in it. It's okay. Others, what is a composite number?
I think composite numbers are the numbers which has more than one factor.
More than one factor.
Multiple factors, I mean.
Give me an example.
Example, Kesari, 6. If you take 6, 6 has 1, 2, 3, and 6 as its factors. So it is a composite number.
Okay. And is 3 a composite number?
No. Why? Because it has 1 and 3 as its factors.
But you said it has more than one factor, then it's a
No.
composite number.
I said multiple factors, Kesari.
And by multiple, you mean how many
Yes,
numbers?
more than 2.
More than 2.
To be precise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. More than 2. Okay.
Then 4 is the smallest composite number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then guys, just a small question. Like this is a pretty standard question and quite an easy one too. And occasionally in some of the easier mock tests, you might come across this question. Can there be a number which is even and a prime number as well?
2.
2.
Yeah, 2.
Okay, yes. Anybody, any doubt why the answer is 2?
No.
Anybody? Clear, everybody? This was a pretty standard question, like you will get in across various textbooks, even some school textbooks have this question. So just wanted to get that part cleared. Anybody, any doubt?
No
Okay,
case.
so all right, great. So for prime numbers, like the definition you guys said is quite correct. If it has just 2 factors, it's a prime number. And those factors would be 1 and itself. If it has more than 2 factors, it will be a composite number. Okay, so with this out of the way, positive and negative is already known to you guys. What is 0? What is 0?
Might be an integer case.
0 might be an integer. Yeah, all the integers would come across positive and negative ones, so not an issue there. But among the positive and negative numbers, where will 0 stand?
Center of both.
So you mean to say it comes in both of them, positive as well as negative?
No, it comes under positive, because negative numbers are something which are less than 0. So the definition of negative number itself is something which is less than 0, then we call it as a negative number. I mean to say less than is not in fraction entirely, like -1, -2, like that.
Okay, then going by a similar definition, can I say positive numbers are those which are greater than 0?
Yes.
Greater
I'm
than,
using your analogy. So in
greater
that,
than equal to.
greater than equal to. Okay.
As Ashvik told that less than 0 are negative numbers. So that would imply that greater than equal to 0 must be positive.
Okay.
If you go on a number line basis.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
0 is the origin. So it's where everything starts in both the directions. So we can't exactly say it's positive or negative, I guess.
We are kind of correct. 0 is neither a positive nor a negative number, guys. What you guys are stating is correct, but I know where this confusion is coming from, and I will clarify it just here. If I say non-negative numbers and non-positive numbers, this is where all the doubts are coming from. So I'll have a number line. This is 0, this is 1, 2, and so on. this is -1, this is -2. Now, if I say non-negative, I mean that should not cover anything negative. Then you will include 0 and all the numbers here. When I say non-positive, it means I have not to consider any positive number. Then you take 0 and consider all those numbers here. That's where your confusion arises, where the 0 is. 0 is neither a positive nor a negative number. It has its own place value. This part is clear, guys?
Yes.
Everybody? We are almost done with the most basic part. So now you guys should not have any confusion, any question. And now I'll ask one or two twisty questions, and then we'll start with the basics that are actually required to solve the questions. All right. So uh, just one more thing, one important thing, real and imaginary. Now we have already discussed anything that can be represented into the form of p by q, where q is not equal to 0 is a real number as well. Now, what is an imaginary number? Or in more simpler terms, if I have to say, this complete number line represents real numbers. So what is an imaginary number?
Cannot be completely represented on a number line.
Okay. Point taken. Anybody else?
No, if that is the case, then infinity is also an imaginary number. That also cannot be taken on a number line.
Infinity is an imaginary concept.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But
Whenever you have this number lines, you will always see tending to infinity, tending to minus infinity. So yeah, it is not represented, but in a notation format, the direction is shown. Where does infinity lie? Where does minus infinity lie? Anybody would like to add?
Anything which is not there on a number line is imaginary in terms
Yeah.
of numbers.
Yeah,
And
but
and it is also has a part under root of -1.
is it necessarily just -1?
No, but there should be iota, no?
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, yeah. We'll not charter into that much of the imaginary numbers right now. I just wanted to have the definition with you guys clear. So basically, anything that cannot be represented on the real number line, this is called the real number line. If it cannot be represented on the real number line, it is an imaginary number. And yes, it does consist of iota. Iota is basically like if you had studied in maths, root of -1 is known as iota. This is known as iota. And from here, it's the concepts of real, imaginary numbers have originated. So we'll just move forward with this, guys. Now, moving forward, the concept, important concept that we will have is factors. Now, what are factors, guys? Anybody? What are factors?
Y is a factor if it completely divides X. So there can be any number of Y's, for example, Y1, Y2, Y3.
Okay, point taken. Anybody else?
A number which can be completely broken down into several other numbers in form of multiplication.
Acha, okay, in form of multiplication. Okay. If you hadn't stated the multiplication part, I would have asked a follow-up question. Okay. Yeah, you are quite correct, you both of them. Anybody who wishes to add something? Well, you guys are quite correct. If I have to state that it basically means that if one number divides a second number exactly, like the remainder is 0, then you could say that the only thing is you cannot use a 0 there because 0 does not have any multiples. So in that, yeah, first example, if we have 15 and we have 5, so if we divide 15 by 5, we get 3. And similarly, if we divide 15 by 3, we get 5. So we can say 5 into 3 is 15. So that means 5 and 3 are multiples of 15. What are multiples now? I just now mentioned multiples. So even those things need to be defined. What are multiples?
Multiples are the numbers which are product of factors and its own. I think I want to say that if 15 is a multiple, then 5 and 3 are multiples. Factors, sorry.
Okay, yeah, you're quite correct. You're quite correct. Like if I take a number x and if I multiply with any other integer y. For if 5, I wish to know the multiples of 5, I can multiply it by 2, 3, any number. What I will get is a resulting integer which will be a multiple of 5. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, Kesari, product of factors.
Yeah, great. Okay. One concept which you might or might not have heard, that is coprimes. Anybody heard it before? What is coprime?
Yes.
Yeah, what is it?
Like an example, 3 and 5 are co-prime.
Okay, but you will have to define it then as well. What you say, what example you gave is quite correct. How will you define it?
Basically pairs which are nearby each other.
Pairs
11,
which are nearby each other.
like 11, 13, 17, 19, because they're odd numbers. And yep.
Okay, so are 3 and 19 coprimes?
No.
No. Okay. Anybody who wishes to add something? Are 3 and 19 coprimes? Is Asvik telling correct or you disagree with him? Others, I would request you all to participate in the discussion too. It doesn't matter you're right or wrong. I need your logic part.
I forgot what are coprimes.
Okay.
Then HCF should be 1.
HCF should be 1. Okay. What is an HCF?
Highest common factor.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll discuss that part as well. We have that part coming up. All right, guys, I'll take what is a coprime. So coprime are numbers who only have one, as Trilok said correctly, just one common factor, that is 1. They do not have any other, like if you find the factors of 3 and if you find the factors of 19, you'll find just one common factor, that is 1. You will not find any other common factor, and hence they are known as coprimes. That means they are prime to each other. The definition of coprime, the definition of this word is two numbers are prime to each other. Is this part clear, guys? Everything what we have discussed till now, factors, multiples, and coprime. Is this part clear, guys?
So in that case, all prime number are coprimes, right?
All prime numbers are coprimes. Yes, they are coprimes to each other.
Okay. Then why do we have two concepts like? I'm sorry, but
So 6 and 7 should also be co-prime, right?
Yes, they are coprime.
oh right. So need not be a prime number. The other number. Oh.
X and Y need not be a prime number. See,
okay, right.
I can put here 4. 4 is not a prime number, but 4 and 19 are prime to each other. Understood, everybody?
Yes.
Everybody, please mention in chat box if till now everything is clear. If it is not, please mention that as well. Okay, great. Others? A few responses are still left. If you have any doubt, please ask me right now itself. Okay, all right. Great then. We'll just spend a minute in one concept, and that is a school concept quite. Everybody clear with the divisibility rule of 2? The number should be even. Divisibility rule of 3, add the numbers, then the resultant sum should be a multiple of 3. Anybody any doubts with my division rule of 3? Anybody? Please mention if you have a doubt. Okay, moving on. 4. Similar to 2, it should be a multiple of 4, wherein if it's an even number and even number with a power of 2, it should be then it will be multiple of 4. What is the multiple of 5, guys?
Anything's unit digit, if it's 0 or 5, then it's a multiple of 5.
Okay, perfect. 6?
Divisible by 2
2 and 3.
both.
All right. Does anybody know the division rule of 7?
It's a prime number.
No,
Sorry?
I guess we don't have a divisible rule for 7.
we have.
Actually, you have to, there's some cyclicity which can be observed. So it has basically 4 forms which it can take. So unit can be either 7 or 1 or 8 or so it keeps on repeating. First is 7 and then 7, this is 7 to the 14. Yeah, so 7, 4, 1 and 8. Again, it keeps on repeating the same.
We get 35, 5.
Okay.
Well, it won't be required that much, guys. See, don't stress on it. Like, it's a long one. If you don't know it, it's not compulsorily necessary. You can skip it for now. The divisibility rule of 8.
Last 3 digits should be divisible by 8.
The last 3 digits should be divisible by 8. Okay. Example. Meanwhile, just a small exercise, guys. Any 2-digit number can be represented in the form of, if it is P and Q, can it be represented in the form of 10P plus Q? Yes?
Yes.
So, what if now I have to derive the divisibility of 3 and test it? How will I test it? Anybody? Any solution? How to proceed forward? If we go back to the basics, I mean, see, going through the divisibility, it just struck me. If we just know what is the divisibility, that would be rote learning. Understanding how the divisibility works, that is how the tough questions are actually made. So can anybody tell me how to proceed forward? 10P plus Q, and I have to test the divisibility of, test the criteria of 3 on this number and come up with the criteria. You know the criteria of what is the divisibility by 3?
Addition of
Addition
digits.
should be, yes, perfect. Addition of digits should be divisible by 3. How from this to this, how will we derive? Anybody? I will give you guys 2 minutes. Think on it. 2 minutes, guys. Think on it. And if you think you guys have arrived or come up with a proper solution, you can privately reply to me. Don't reply the complete approach. Just reply a yes, that I will understand, and reply me privately. Take 2 minutes. Think about it. This is how generally questions are framed on similar levels. This is just a building block. 2 minutes, guys.
Kesari, can I say?
I would request you to wait for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, we'll discuss. Don't worry. Yeah, so I have received one response from Aditya. Aditya, you wish to continue? You wish to go ahead?
Can I say?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's nothing great that I did. I just proved that how addition of two numbers can, if addition of p and q should give us an, if they both are divisible by 3, then the number will be divisible by 3. So
Perfect.
what I did was see 10 can be written as 3p plus 3p plus 3p plus p.
Perfect.
So 3p, 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 it's all divisible by 3, and leftover is only 1p, which I add with q. So if these both are divisible by 3, then obviously the whole number is divisible by 3.
Perfect. Great. Great. Anybody? Something different? Something similar? Anybody who had a similar approach or the same approach? So guys, what is here is I can mention this as, right? Now this part is divisible by 3. What is left? If this part is also divisible by 3, my total number would become divisible by 3. Now what is left is p by q addition should be divisible by 3. If that's the case, the number will be divisible by 3. And what is p plus q? The integers, individual integers of the number in tens and units place. You can extend it to 3 digits and 4 digit numbers as well. Anybody, any doubt before moving forward? Anybody? Is this part clear, guys? Because we'll be moving forward. Okay. All right. Great. Moving forward, guys. Now we saw what is a factor, what is a multiplier, what are coprimes, how does divisibility work. Now we'll try to determine what are the numbers of factors of a given number. So if I have the number 12, let's take an easy one first. What would be factors of this number? Anybody?
1, 2, 6, 3, 4,
1, 2, 3,
12,
4, 6, 12.
3, 4, 6, 12.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, that's it. Okay. Okay. All right. So if I have to prime factorize 12 as well, how will I write it?
Two squared into 3.
Okay. Guys, I hope you guys are clear with what is prime factorization. Using prime, breaking down the factors to their lowest possible prime numbers. If it, as much as it is possible. Everybody comfortable with the prime factorization concept, or do you want me to explain it? Okay. Okay, I see, no doubt, then perfect. So this can be mentioned 2 square into 3, that is perfect. So can I write this as 2 square into 3 raised to 1? Now, let's say, let's understand a concept, and this concept will also be very useful for you guys in your permutations and combinations, a chapter which will come in your algebra. So there are 2 2's and there is 1 3. In how many ways, since these 3 are the only elements that require to make one of these, okay, in how many ways can I take a 2 from here? In how many ways can I take a 2 from here? How many ways can I select a 2 from here? Like let's use a subscript for this part. This is 2 number A and this is 2 number B. In how many ways can I take?
2
Sorry?
ways.
2 ways. Okay. Asvik is telling 2 ways. Anybody else?
It's one way, I guess. We are selecting the same 2 twice.
No, that's why I mentioned A and B. Those two are different.
Okay.
Yeah. Now how many ways? In how many ways?
Two
Can we split 4 again into 2 into 2? So we'll be having A, B, and C again. So three 2's.
3 2's. Where does C come from?
4 can again be written as 2 into 2.
No, that is considered a just one.
Okay.
Taking both the 2's together is one case.
Okay.
Yeah. In how many ways can I select 2?
7p2.
Sorry, what is 7p2?
Permutation.
How did 7 come?
7 are the total number factors.
How come 7?
So 6.
Prerit, I would just request you not to get confused. I know sometimes extra knowledge is useful, but don't make it a curse. See guys, there's 3 ways in which we can select the number of 2's. We can select no 2, we can select 1 2, or we can select both the 2's. In this condition, we will not select any of the twos. In this condition, we either select A or either select B. And in this condition, we will select both the twos, A and B. This part clear, guys? Is this part clear, guys? Any doubts? Ask me right now.
How is not selecting two a way of selecting two? In the sense, this zero thing that you wrote.
Okay. Let's say you are being given 2 rotis to eat. How many possible scenarios can there be? Can there be a possible scenario where you are not given food at all?
That's not possible because you just said me that you're given 2 rotis to eat. I can deny to
2
it.
rotis are placed in front of you.
Okay.
Yeah. And it depends on you.
Yes.
How many different conditions can you find? So can there be a condition where you are not hungry at all, you do not eat?
Yes. Yes.
That's the same as the 0. I do not wish to take any 2.
Okay.
This part clear, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. And similarly, how many number of ways can we select 3?
2.
2. How?
No 3 and 1 3.
Exactly. No 3 and 1 3. So this can be selected in 3 ways and this can be selected in 2 ways. Total, in how many factors we will have? Is this number and this number matching, guys?
Yes.
Anybody, any doubt? This is an important concept and a lot of sums come through it. This is the basic and easier version. You will have tougher versions. Okay.
So what is the conclusion that we need to make from this? Like prime factorization of 12, and then if we find out the number of ways, it will give the total number of factors.
Yes.
Okay.
12 is a smaller number. If I give you a 5-digit number, if you find factors individually, it will take you close to half an hour. But
Okay.
using this formula, you can find it under a minute.
Can you take a 3-digit as an example, Kesri, please?
Go ahead. You give me any number that is not prime.
Okay, 112.
112. Okay. One second. Yeah. 112. Can you write it as 2 into 56, which will be 2 into, again 2 into 28. There will be a 2 again, into 14, again a 2. So now it will become this.
Yes.
So is this the lowest possible prime factorization which I can do? Because I cannot break down 7 now. And I also cannot break down 2. Is this part clear, guys? Okay.
Yes.
Now, yeah. In how many ways can I select a 2?
5.
5. Perfectly. And in how many ways can I select a 7?
2.
2.
2. So if these two combine, how many total number of factors there should be?
10.
10. Now, if you have time after this lecture, do the prime factorization or to find the number of factors of 112 individually. You will get exactly 10.
Cool. Nice.
Is this part clear, guys?
Okay, see.
Anybody, any doubt, ask me right now. Any doubt in the process, in understanding this, any doubt? Okay. Now, if you don't have any doubt, let's move forward then. Now, what we found is how many factors. Now we'll find out is in how many ways can I represent a number in the form of A into B. Are you guys understanding? in how many ways can I express a number in the form of a into b? I have found now in what are the total number of a's or a total number of b's, right? I've currently found out what is the total number of a's or total number of b's. They're basically the same here. So the total number of a's or b's here is 10. 10 factors. A and b's are factors of this. Now I have to find out in how many ways can I get a into b. Anybody, any clue how we can find out? Let's take the smaller example here itself. How will we proceed? Take the smaller example. That's why I always start with the smaller example. See, there are formulas which can directly tell you, but if you derive that formula, trust me, it will stay in your mind. And as Aditya, you were telling that it does not strike sometimes. That's the reason. Once you do not go deep into the method, sometimes it doesn't strike. Like I'm not targeting you here, but I'm telling this the general thing.
No, it's completely all right. I understand, Kesri.
Yeah, great.
So what I was thinking is, since you're saying how many number of ways can we that there are such factors that it should be exactly a into b.
Yes.
So since there's a condition given that it should be a into b, so we are cutting down on the number of ways that we might encounter. For example, in the above example, we were considering 0 also as a possibility.
No,
but here
0 is not a possibility.
In the sense, 0 ways of selecting.
Okay, yeah. See,
Yeah.
what will I'll give you just one insight.
Yeah.
If I do not select a 2 at all, can I represent it in this form?
Yes.
And what is this meet 1?
Yes.
So indirectly, I'm only selecting 3 and not selecting 2's at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing by 0. I hope now it has been cleared. Not selecting a 2 at all means selecting a 1.
Yes, Casey, what I was saying is, since you said what will be the number of ways in which A cross B is selected.
Yes.
So I was thinking, instead, since for example, in this thing, we took 0, 1 and 2. So there are 3 ways of selecting a 2. But
Perfect.
if we want A cross B, then we need A for sure. So we are removing the possibility of selecting it in 0 ways. So that is how we are cutting down the number of ways. So we can. Yeah.
1 second. Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, 2 raised to 0 is 1, right?
Yeah.
12 is equal to 1 into 12. If you cut this down, you will miss this part. Because like you said, you will reduce the part wherein you do not take anything. Like there can be one method, right, where I do not take a 2 and do not take a 3 as well, right?
Yes, yes.
So you will miss this part. If you miss this one, you will also miss this part. And if you miss both this, you will miss this method, sorry, this way of representing 12 into A into B. So the final answer you might get won't be correct. Just a heads up of on the way you were thinking. Yeah, guys, think. I'll give you a minute. Think. Yeah, guys, anybody up with the solution?
Like we should exclude the powers.
Care to explain it with an example?
Like if 12 is there,
Yes.
so 2 into 3. There will be the 6 number of ways we can express 12 into A into B form.
6 ways. Interesting. Okay, can you
Or
list?
6 divided by 2 if we are excluding the duplicate ones because they are
Of
mirror image.
course, of course, 2 into 3 and 3 into 2 would be the same.
Divided by 2 then.
Perfectly. So in 12, whatever you get, whatever method you got, that's 3. That's perfectly correct. That's 1 into 12, 2 into 6, and 3 into 4. Now, can you extrapolate this? By extrapolating, I mean, can you derive a formula for bigger numbers?
Just the prime factorization without
Okay.
without the powers of the factorized numbers.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, quite close. Quite close. Guys, just writing down the formula that any number n, if it can be broken down into prime factors of a, b, c, d, like in this case of 112, we had a is equal to 2 and b is equal to 7. So as many as you can get. Sorry. So the number of factors, like these are the prime factors, the number n would actually be a raised to x. Sorry, let's use better numbers. A, B, C, D. Yeah. P, Q, R, S. This is how you will get. Now P here is 4. Q here is 1. This is how you will get a number. So what we did is, generally we added 1 to this, we added 1 to this and multiplied it to find the number of factors. So yeah, the number of factors would be P plus 1 into Q plus 1 into R plus 1 and so on. Is this part clear, guys?
Yes, Kesh.
Perfect, great. Now, just using this formula again, what did we see here? We had 6 factors here. And to make an A into B, we require 2 factors at once. 6 factors used 2 each time. How many times can I use them? Just 3 times. All of them will get exhausted. No duplicates counting. Is this part clear, guys?
But what if the number is greater? Here it's 12, so we can use only 2 numbers. But so sometimes happens that if we multiply 2
I am
numbers, we
asking just A into B. Just A into B. I do not want A into B into C. Just A into B.
okay.
Like even if I give you 500, I'm asking it 100 into 5 or something on similar lines, like 25 into 20. Now this is A, this is B, this is A, this is B. I'm asking just A into B. So there will always be 2 at a time. So if I start consuming 2 factors at a time, what I will be left is number of factors divided by 2.
Yes, Casey.
So we already have derived the formula of number of factors. That means the number of ways of representing it in A into B format would basically be the half of this, P plus 1 into Q plus 1 plus R plus 1 and so on. Can I say this?
Yes, Casey.
Anybody, any doubt? Because if you guys don't have a doubt, I am going to ask a doubt. Okay then. Take one short exercise and we'll solve it right now. And that is find, and this you have to do manually and then check does the formula work as well or not. 36. Find the number of factors and the number of ways in which it can be represented in the form of a into b, and you will do this both the ways, manually and using the formula what we discussed, and let's see if it matches or not. 2 minutes, guys, not more than that. It's a smaller number. 2 minutes is way greater than, still 2 minutes.
Prerit, are you in a plane?
No,
What was that sound?
actually, I live near Air Force Station in Bangalore. So
Okay.
every 2 minutes, Air Force plane crashes above my hostel.
Cool. Flies over. Yeah.
Yeah, flies over.
Yeah, guys, so anybody up with the solutions?
I have a doubt, like using the formula for a into b, I'm getting it as 9 by 2, so it is 4.5.
Yes.
So in that case, it is
And
4.
manually, how much did you get?
I actually got, 4, and the last factor is 6 into 6.
Yeah.
So 5.
Is 6 into 6 a into b? A and b have to be unique because
Oh, right, correct. So in that case, if it is 4.5, then should I consider it as the lower limit?
No,
wait for it. That's why I said if you don't have a doubt, I will ask a doubt. This is my doubt. Yeah, guys, everybody done with the solving part?
Yes, Casey.
If you're getting different answers, that is because the answers were meant to be different. It's not that you have done anything wrong. The answers were meant to be different. That's why you're getting different answers. So guys, what did you guys get here? A into b. This will be 4, and here you might have got 9 by 2.
A into B is 6 by 4.
Sorry, a into b 6.
Yeah, 2 3s are 6.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get you. What are you trying to say?
A into B means two different factors, not prime factors.
Yes.
So 2
It's
and
not necessarily prime factors, two different numbers.
they both should be different now.
Yes, they both should be different,
Then
but a into b should be equal to the number also. Like I cannot say if the number given is 36, then 2 into 3 is equal to 6, because 2 into 3 is 6, not 36. So
okay.
if I take a is equal to 2, then b should be equal to 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Everybody got this? The answer what Aspik is getting? Manually you get 4, and by formula using you get 9 by 2.
Yeah, Casey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, guys, what we are using for multiplication part, a into b, when you get a perfect square, what will happen is one chance will always be repeated, a into b. There will be a one case because that number is a perfect square, so it will always give you a into a and not a into b. So in such a case, such a scenario, there will be slight modification. You will have to subtract 1 and then half it. This one and then take its half. Is this part clear, guys? We are eliminating one case wherein it is just a into a, because that is not what we require. Now both of them will give you 4. Everybody clear with this part, guys?
Yes, yes.
Everybody, please type an yes in the chat box if it is clear. If you have a doubt, please type it. Okay, great. I can see.
Actually, I have one doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I'm getting manual. I'm getting five types of A into B.
Okay, and
Means 1 into 36, 2 into 18, 3 into
okay.
12, 4
1
into
second.
9.
1 second. Yeah. Go ahead. 3 into.
3 into 12.
Okay.
4 into 9.
Yes.
6 into 6.
Yeah. Now, like I said, A into B, both A and B need to be unique. Are these two unique?
Okay, I got it. Fine.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, this was the basics of numbers. I purposely did not take up a class worksheet today because, like you can see, numbers discussion part is quite important. I could have directly at the starting of the class just said these are the formulas. Now we'll start solving the problems. But the derivation part is quite important, and previously mentioned this is an important chapter. So we will have 3 sessions on this part, and the number of classwork problems on this would be very much limited and similar. Very much similar, almost a handful of problems, and that too I will discuss it in the class as well. So if I see a need arises for a class worksheet, I will be there, but mostly I will try to cover the concepts and the way in which you can derive the formulas, so that your basics would be completely cleared, and I will be sharing the homework problem sheets with you guys. Hopefully this is okay with you guys. And this is just for numbers, because it's quite a vast chapter. Okay then, guys, what I would say is, numbers being a big chapter coming up, you will have a lot of problems to solve, close to 50-60 problems coming up in numbers total across the 3 sessions that you will be solving as homework. So I would say don't keep a backlog, complete everything and stay updated, guys. And also do keep it on revising, and if any doubts, yeah, you can post it in the group. Try solving it among you guys first. If you guys are not able to come up with a solution, I will step in, don't worry. Okay then, guys, that will be all for today, and see you guys in the next session.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.